Are we, in fact, putting too much pressure on our children? Or is all this another example of what some people call Generation Snowflake, a cosseted cohort of kids wrapped in too much cotton wool who can't face adversity? To discuss this, we're joined by the child psychologist, Dr. Amanda Gummer, and Sandra Nardi, who's a former teacher and founder of the Parent Education Consultancy. Very good morning to both of you. Amanda, if I can start with you. We're saying that this is an increasing problem, anxiety. So much so, actually, it's been medicalised in the form of people being referred for counselling. What are you seeing?
I think that's it's a shame that that's happening, and I think as parents we need to create an environment where children are allowed to fail and that it's not seen as the be-all and end-all. So that pressure on a single exam result or a success in
all on the day.
Yeah, exactly. And those results that come out tomorrow, the be-all and end-all. And actually recognising that there is so much more to children or people generally than how they perform in a particular exam is important. And that gives them skills for life as well. It's not just about hothousing and pressure, and helping parents understand the sort of holistic nature of development and that children need to develop in all areas, not just those that are tested by exams, is really important.
Sandra, some parents might hear that and say the only problem with it, and I know, if I started stressing the holistic side of education to my children, I'm not sure they'd do more homework.
That's very true. To be honest, these results is the tip of the iceberg. These children, or young people, I should say, that are actually brave enough to pick up the phone, are a very small minority, and I completely admire them picking up the phone. But what about all the children that are young people that are not, especially the boys? And I'm slightly concerned
especially
that we're not
the
listening.
boys.
Yeah, if we looked at the research, it's mainly girls that are actually picking up the phone. What are we doing about boys to support them? Where's their stress?
Girls are doing a lot better. I think I forget what the proportion is, but it's something much bigger than you might think of girls who go on to university now than boys.
I think recently, last week, they said maths for the first time, boys are picking up speed. But it's not so much about the results I'm concerned about, it's who's asking for help. And how can we help young people deal with stress, especially boys, and if they're not being supported. And this debate has happening every year, and they're not listening. And it's about time we actually don't just try and find solutions, but actually try and change what the problem is in the first place.
And this debate might happen every year, but there are also long-term trends which, it might be folly to ignore. The knowledge economy matters more, arguably, than it ever has done. There are certain jobs, manual jobs, that young men in particular might have one day gone into that just don't exist anymore. Robotics is not going to slow down that process. So to pretend that, it doesn't matter on the day, that A-levels, it's not that that's wrong as well, isn't it?
Yes, and instilling a good work ethic in children is important, and that sort of, what did you call it, Generation Snowflake, is something that we've been fighting against. Kids need to experience life and failure and adversity and challenge and perseverance, and all those things are part of life, and children need to develop the skills to cope with all of that as they get older. What I think is really important is allowing children the freedom during their young childhood to have those experiences and sort of learn how to deal with winning and losing and that kind of not having competition anywhere, because we don't want to upset children if they lose, has actually come back, and now you are having children who are getting to times in their life where the results matter, and they're not able to cope with the prospect of failure.
So, that's true, isn't it? Increasingly, a lot of homes are scholarised now. The playroom's turned into a study, getting out to test yourself in the way that Amanda's talking about, learning to overcome hardships, develop a bit of ingenuity, some survival skills. Well, that's fine. It was fine 25, 40 years ago when people played out lots. Now they're ferried over in a car. They've got this pressure from on high. It's a very different kind of childhood experience.
It's true, but there's one massive thing that I'm sure we both agree on and that we need to raise is technology. We're in a digital age, and I just don't kids get it. We get it, but I don't understand why the education system doesn't understand that how to use technology that engage children in a platform that they actually naturally enjoy. Young people shouldn't be in a bedroom by themselves studying Shakespeare in a book. It's no wonder the stress.
Most English teachers would be the first to point that out.
Sorry, who would
Most
be?
English teachers, and theatre studies teachers would be the first to point that out.
You know, Shakespeare would be mortified if he found that children are forced to their rooms by themselves to study texts that are really rich, and actually the curriculum is very rich, and it's a wonderful curriculum. But how that children are accessing it, that fits in with what they feel comfortable in, being born in a digital age, is something that I would like to see revolutionised within the.
Just develop that point for us. What would you change? I mean, as a former teacher.
I mean, as a former teacher, first, the thing I learnt in my teaching career was actually modelling what's happening in the workforce, problem solving and discussing, and then going to technology and finding solutions. And I think that's going to prepare children a lot more for jobs that are out there. I mean, it seems that education is a real stickler at the moment because the children are enjoying technology, our workforce are enjoying technology, and yet children are forced to sit exams for 1 hour in 10 different subjects with an incredible workload, and they're struggling. It doesn't fit in with the world around them, and I'm very concerned that the education system is still stuck in a Victorian era and is not moving as fast as other industries and jobs around.
Although, having said that, I was at an inspirational event last night, and the EdTech Exchange, and these are founders of fantastically innovative educational solutions using technology. And the world is changing, and there are things out there that help students learn in the way that best suits them. But what I think with all of the technology and the exam stress, what we're failing to do for our children is teach them the emotional development and the skills that they need to, that resilience, the kind of be able to cope with failure, be able to push themselves, be able to take pride in their achievements, but also cope with things when they don't perform as well on the day. So it's that kind of emotional side of things which I would like to see a bit more emphasis on.
And the organisation, actually the majority of it is how to organise the workload. I mean, one student said to me, my English teacher thinks it's the only subject I'm studying. Actually the history teacher's throwing it on them, like they've got all the time in the world. The 10 teachers are throwing their own, they've got their own agenda. Now, who's actually managing that whole child's workload? And who's supporting that child to be organised into breaking it down and making it manageable?
Well, that's part of the skill, isn't it? Life doesn't ration itself out in dollops that you can manage.
But we should be able to teach that skill and to help them organise it. And actually, when I support students, actually the first thing we're doing is teaching how to break it down and to manage it. And that's a skill, I think, which would support their stress.
And we've talked about this idea of social media or tech broadly, computers helping people learn. In terms of the pressure, this is a debate that we're having about pressure that's on those sixth-form kids who tomorrow will get the results. Pressure comes from within, pressure comes from parents, it comes from teachers, it comes from peers as well, doesn't it, too? And we know, father of teenage daughters, we know there's a lot that's going on smartphones, not all of it good.
No, and I think the different types of pressure need dealing with in different ways. So I think it's good to put pressure on yourself, to challenge yourself, to strive to do the best you can. When we've got the Olympics going on, you see examples of people who have done that and made that commitment, persevered, done really well. I think that's a good trait to instill in children. I think parents can be guilty of putting a bit too much pressure, either because of unfulfilled dreams that they have or keeping up with the Joneses type competition within the community. And I think parents, in order to best support their children, need to allow them to fail, like I said, at an earlier stage where the consequences aren't so damaging or aren't so important. But they can do a lot to support their children in going through the exams without increasing the pressure. They can create a sort of a supportive environment, take away the annoying younger sister from distracting them from their homework, creating a place in the home where they can have quiet time to study, facilitating all of that with, sensible rules around use of tech at bedtime, getting enough sleep, eating properly. All of that stuff really plays into how well a child will do on the day, without then sort of saying, if you don't get an A, you're a disappointment. I think there's a big role for parents. And when you're talking about the Olympics, Laura Trott would be the first to say she wouldn't be where she was if she didn't have a team of support around her. And that family environment, yes, they support her and they help her achieve, but the pressure comes from her. And I think that's the message we need to give the kids, that the pressure they need to be responsible for their own achievements, their own failures, and they take that responsibility on themselves and they learn from it.
Well, Amanda, you could have almost written my next link, because we were talking about Laura Trott and the team that's behind her. Amanda Plummer, Sandra, Nardi, thanks both very much for coming in.